puta! ¡Hijo de puta, hijo de puta! ¡Malditos!
So I'm doing something a bit different today. I've never done this on my channel before. I'm going to have a conversation with my mate Francesco. We'll just start off with you, Francesco. So who are you? Where exactly are you from? And tell me a bit about yourself.
Well, as you mentioned before, I was born in Caracas, Venezuela. I lived in Venezuela till 2013. I moved when I was 17. Basically, Venezuela is located in South America, just at the north part. It's in the tropic. It's a paradise. It should be like a paradise that everyone should visit.
Yeah.
That people should be happy to go there, learn the culture, learn the warmth of the people, because we're really able to receive a huge amount of tourists and also treat them how they deserve. Therefore, like saying about the tourist part, it's just saying like we have lack of those, because there's always, we have the bad fame that it's too insecure, that you cannot find anything or things like that. And unfortunately, I have to say that that is true. All this happening because of a little bunch of people that they decided to rule the country by buying the huge amount of population that was in the country, like the poor people, the poor class.
Yeah.
Because in the we have had like a very high amount of unemployment and poor people around the last 20-30 years, and due to this they just believe in an alternative with this little bunch.
When was Hugo Chavez elected?
Well, it was 1997. Then from 1997 till 2013. Once Chavez died, the rule in the constitution says that the vice president needs to be, whoever is elected to have the charge needs to have winning an election, and this election needs to take place as soon as possible, having a candidate for the opposition and a candidate from the government. For a while he was the ruler because there was a vice president, and they thought like, oh, this is gonna be without election. In the end, the election happened. But as the CNE, the Consejo Nacional Electoral, that is translated as the electoral consensus of the to vote, it's kind of like the British Parliament, you know?
Yeah.
They're part of the government, and they have the main heads of there. They're just very friends of the government. I'm not gonna lie. It's the truth. Everyone knows it. They know it. So they can say the numbers they want. They can say they want by 300,000 people. 6 months later, or I'm not mistaken, 3 or 6 months later, they decided to just rip the constitution apart and making sure that the parliament that was supposed to be like the one that makes the decisions through the president. The president wants to do something, but the parliament has to make the vote, and from the vote, they will say to him, no, you cannot do it, or yes, you can do it. Therefore, he went to the Tribunal of Justice, the other power in there, and they just make the constitution. They kind of like they put it in a guillotine and they just start ripping it apart.
What was it like under Hugo Chavez? Was it booming economy, or was that when things started to go alright?
My mom, every time she gave me like a bit of cash, it was sometimes for the whole week. That became later for just 2 days.
Oh wow.
And eventually after a year it just became even for a day, and not even was enough.
Yeah.
So she had to give me more, and now the bills that she gave me was just literally for a day. Things that you could buy in a month, like for example, for 300 bolivares, I remember that I saved money to buy a Darth Vader like helmet. 3-4 years after, with 300 bolivares, just you can buy a breakfast or anything like a Coke or a pastry with just 300 bolivares.
Okay.
The same amount of money that I used for buying a very expensive Darth Vader like with voice exchange helmet. That it was like high on the market at the point. It's kind of like this is the situation in Venezuela. Like you start to save money from the beginning. You start to appreciate more things there, and even later, like you can have the money, but there is not the products. We had periods where there was no milk for like 3 months. We still have those problems, but there was no milk for 3 months, and the one that you could find, it was really expensive.
Yeah.
No airplanes going to Venezuela, or the ones you get, they're really expensive. There is no toilet paper, there are no resources, the petroleum is not as pricey as it was before, so they cannot get products. And this is what happened. Like literally, they're just not receiving stuff, and the ones who get affected are the people themselves.
Yeah.
People, they just die of starvation. People, they just cannot provide to live in a normal house, so they have to live in a kind of a little shed that we call the slums. So you can find it in Caracas, just the favelas, a kind of in Brazil.
Yeah.
There's no medicines in the hospitals. There's a lot of blackouts. In my country, I had in my life like lived to at least 25. It comes like 3-4 per year. And no matter where you live, no matter if you pay your bills, no, there's always blackouts in my country. And those blackouts sometimes is with water, with gas, with the fridge. In other words, you cannot do nothing.
This is serious. How long will this go on? No one can put up with this. There's just one person responsible for all of this. And I'm sorry to say it, but he's aware of what he's doing.
He's referring to President Nicolas Maduro, whom many Venezuelans blame for rampant inflation, the shortages of food and medicine and rising crime. The president blames what he calls enemies of the state, including the United States. The blackout came a day after power was lost at a Congress of the governing Socialist Party of Venezuela, which the president again said was sabotage. Power cuts are common in other parts of Venezuela, but less so in the capital, where fuel in this oil-rich country is one of the few commodities there's plenty of.
I am not part of the right, and I am not part of the left, because I know you can find crap in both sides. I prefer to be in the middle. In the middle is kind of like, because not be too much of that side, and prefer to see the things critically.
Yeah.
And critically, I have seen that there's both parties that they have been fighting each other, the opposition and the government, saying, oh, you want to go to the right, you go to the left. In the end, they're just making a mess. And thanks to this, in the last 6 years, building up hope that probably if they vote for them, they're gonna bring down the government, it has become just a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
39,000 people per year have died by homicide.
Jesus Christ. I read along those lines that around 2.3 million people in the last year or two have left Venezuela to go to Colombia, Ecuador, Chile, just to leave, basically. So you were saying that it's not just the government, it's the mindset of the people. Would you expand on that?
There's people out there in my country that they're very extremist, and what I mean, they're radical towards the left and towards the right. And whatever they speak is just saying the same thing. Every time someone drops there's rubbish on the floor, or you find something, that is thanks to Chavez.
Yeah.
And there's always like blaming Chavez, blaming Maduro for this, for that, for that. That is the mindset of the people. They're blaming just the government, and they think because the government is not doing nothing for taking criminals out or taking this out, they just can do whatever they want. And it's simply, you're not making a change by just having that mindset.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to get. Like, don't be like hating the government and go with, for example, Capriles. Capriles is what was on the candidates of the opposition. If we want to make the change, we are 30 million people right now living in the country. 30 million.
Yeah.
It has to be mutual. It has to be at least a great part, because if you have for a small part and then you just let them do this stuff, then you're gonna damage the whole piece, the whole change is not gonna happen.
Recently there's been a spate of news articles ever since, I think, Trump's suggestion that he'd have a military option for Venezuela.
Please no.
Well, that's my question exactly. There has been increasing talk about a possible military intervention. There's a humanitarian crisis, millions of refugees, people are starving. Maduro seems to be... There was I don't know if you saw it, a national broadcast, where during the broadcast he pulled out a piece of food during a live broadcast to millions of people, many of whom are starving to death because of the policies the country is enacting, and he starts eating it in front of the camera. And so you see more and more news reports about something has to be done, something's going on. Should there be a military intervention? There were several different coup attempts. There was a police officer who stole a helicopter and shot at some buildings, and he was hunted down and killed. There was a potential military uprising at a military base. There was something just the other day, a drone attack tried to kill him, but that failed miserably. So what do you think should be done? What is obviously you're a citizen of the country, would you advocate any kind of intervention at all, or would you, because it's been like, it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. So what would you suggest? What do you think should be done?
As I mentioned to you in a brief when you mentioned about Trump, like for me, a military intervention for some people will be a dream come true. As I said, people that really think that with just the Americans coming in Venezuela, with their big tanks, with the big helicopters, with the big soldiers, they're just gonna sort everything that is possible. But what they don't see is like if they come here, I don't know if they have read about history. Every time USA intervenes in a country, well, they don't have a very good record.
No.
They don't have a very good record, and what happens there is not very nice. In other words, they just put more gasoline to the fire. Unfortunately, my opinion in that, like, to sum up everything and sum up all the things that you say about these coup attempts and everything, it's just a demonstration that the country is falling apart, and literally people, they don't know where else to go because they're so desperate. When the human brain becomes so desperate of something, just start to be afraid, and when they're afraid, they can listen to whoever person they want, whoever person they promise them food or whatever, and they're just gonna follow them like a dog. They're just gonna follow them because they're afraid. And this is what more or less is happening in the country. They start not to think like very much like coherent, like very much like have common sense. They just think about their priorities, their agendas, and they just think like benefit themselves more than what it benefits the whole population. So it's kind of like a small anarchy. Yeah, and this is the problem of the country right now. It's not a socialism, it's not a communism, it's not even a dictatorship. It's becoming an anarchy. There's people, we don't know what to do. I even don't know what to do. It's just probably leave the country and wait for something to happen. But who's gonna make the change?
Yeah,
it's something that it has to be supported in somehow, in some way by most of us, because some of us have the chance to go abroad and work because we have European passports. Yeah. But some of us, it's literally we have to stick with what we have. Yeah. And it's with visas they don't give us as much like a hall pass to just go to these countries and work like full time or something. So we need to just work it out.
Yeah.
And the way we can work it out is just have patience and think what is best for the countries. That is the best explanation I can have so far. It's a hard situation. I just feel that at this point we need help. At this point I don't know really which kind of help from who, but what I know is that it's a country that needs help. And it's a country that needs help not from only one bunch of people, it needs help from a lot. And just if we can bring conscious of what is happening, I just wouldn't like just to have an intervention from USA or have like airplanes throwing bombs to there, because I know that they will be more affected than we are now. It's just we need something happen in a rational way, because we live in the 21st century. We're not anymore in 1940, 1942, Second World War, or the Cold War times. We have to learn how to move from this by just paying attention to the signs that we have and make sure that there is some justice around the country, because it's like that. It's just my point of view. It's a difficult situation. It's something that is very much like depends on not only one person, unfortunately. That's the thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I'll put all the relevant links in the description. I thought this was a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed learning more about the country, and obviously everything that's going on. It's extremely interesting, and if anyone wants to find out more, then again, links are in the description. Thank you all for watching, and thank you, Francesco.
No worries.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
you.